Alright guys, what is going on? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to a new video and welcome to my backyard. Somebody recently asked me to talk about depression, my thoughts on depression, if I think it's normal, you name it. So let's dive right into the video. Depression, ladies and gentlemen, is becoming more and more commonplace. I believe there's over 26 million people on Prozac, Zoloft, and Paxil, and those are just three serotonin reuptake inhibitors, also known as SSRIs. Then there's people who are on things like bupropion, also known as Wellbutrin. There's a handful of antidepressants on the market. So many people are on different medications and drugs. On top of that, so many people eat crappy food. They don't get adequate rest. We live in a fake, artificial world, ladies and gentlemen. You know, and to be honest, a lot of the people who go through depression, at least from the people I've communicated with, they're not happy with the way the world is. They know deep down that something is out of alignment. And when something is out of alignment and you know it's out of alignment, it can make it very difficult to deal with that and not feel dragged down. So I can understand depression. However, I do think that it's becoming more commonplace for, adults to take their children to psychiatrists if any little thing goes wrong while they're growing up, and oftentimes they get prescribed these strange medications. I think we're an over-medicated culture, and proof of that is in the statistics on how many people, again, take antidepressants. Things such as, but not limited to, Zoloft, Paxil, you name it, the Wellbutrin, all of the Ritalin prescriptions that are written. I mean, it's insane. So these are just my opinions, but I don't think that we're designed to have to take all these drugs. I don't think that the body has a Prozac deficiency and that we need to supplement Prozac. Personally, and these are just my opinions, and I'm not a professional, but I believe that depression, more often than not, is largely due to environment. And yeah, there's things such as deficiencies in your body. If you're low in magnesium, you can feel like crap. If you're low in vitamin D, you can feel like crap. It's amazing how little sunshine people actually get nowadays, because we spend most of our time indoors under the fluorescent lighting that's fucking up your hormones, your prolactin, your melatonin, your neurotransmitters. It's destroying your circadian rhythm. So, ladies and gentlemen, how do you expect everyone in the world to feel good on this model, where everything is out of alignment, where our hormones are thrown out of whack, where we don't get anywhere near enough sunlight, where we take all of these drugs and we eat all these crap foods? I mean, how do you expect every single person in the world to fit into that mold and be okay with it? So a lot of people, at least from the people I've communicated with who have depression problems, they end up taking medication because they just can't handle it. They don't like the way that living in this weird world feels. So, and oftentimes the culture makes you feel like you're messed up, or there's something wrong with you. You have a chemical imbalance, and you need these drugs just to be normal. The way that, in my opinion, psychiatrists go about handling their patients, more often than not, I think it's backwards. I personally think it's backwards. And again, this is just my opinion, and I know that there's good shrinks out there, but I'm just going to say that I've been to them a long time ago. I went to a shrink, a couple of them, and they sit there and they look at their paper and they don't really look at you in the eyes, and they just write down a bunch of stuff while you're talking to them like you're some type of meat machine being analyzed. It's very strange. So the first time when I was younger, I went to a psychiatrist. They tried to write me a prescription for Paxil within like a 20-minute period. And that's the other thing. More often than not, when you go to see a psychiatrist, you get like 20 minutes with this person. You get 20 minutes. Like, how much work can you get done with someone in 20 minutes? And they make a ton of money. So I'm drug-free. I don't take any of the pharmaceuticals. I do, however, from time to time take some of the racetams. Things like fasiracetam, aniracetam, oxiracetam. I've experimented with adrafinil in the past. I've experimented with things like uridine monophosphate. I'm going to do a review video on this probably later today. I've experimented with, again, the phenylpiracetam, coliracetam. These are nootropics. These can be legally obtained. So even things like, that kind of makes me want to dovetail, I'll branch into this topic by saying that I find it weird that psychiatrists prescribe these strong drugs. Why don't they try to, maybe see if things like, what's the name of that? Huperzine A. Why don't they try to see if people have a beneficial reaction to huperzine? Or, again, some of the racetams. So, I find it strange that psychiatrists don't even ask you how much sunlight you get, if your magnesium levels have been checked. I think the mainstream model is highly flawed. So, it's just bizarre to me how things work here in the Matrix. I look at things so much differently now than I used to. And I look at things so much differently as a 31-year-old male. I look at things so much differently than people my age or the adults around me. And it does, ladies and gentlemen. This world can drive you crazy. So this is why I put a huge emphasis on magnesium, sunlight, grounding, just certain things that you can do on a daily basis, your daily walk. Things that can uplift your spirits and make you feel better in an artificial world. Because again, like I just said, this world can make you go crazy. And I'm not just talking about the evil in the world and being aware of it. I'm talking about all the lighting systems that destroy your look at this thing flying at me. I'm talking about the lighting systems that destroy your hormones, that destroy your rest. I mean, come on. I'm talking about all the bad food. So, yeah, depression, I can understand why people don't feel good. And again, it's not just because of the weight of the world coming down on people. It's because we live highly unnatural lives, where we spend a large majority of our time inside under artificial lighting. Do you have any clue what you're doing to your body when you spend multiple hours a day, not to mention years, under artificial lighting? Do you have any clue what you're doing to yourself? If you don't feel good, if you feel like crap, you need to look at the attenuation of electromagnetic fields in your living space and the attenuation of your lighting systems. Then, by addressing those things, you'll be able to get more sufficient rest. You need to try to get 9.5 hours of sleep a night. And I know that may sound like a lot, but I highly suggest reading T.S. Wiley's book, Lights Out, Sleep, Sugar, and Survival, for more information on the power of lighting and what artificial lighting does to our internal environmental mechanisms and how it throws our entire being out of alignment and takes us out of alignment with the circadian rhythm, a natural circadian rhythm. You see, in nature, we would have a circadian rhythm that was managed by the seasons. But here in the Matrix, we have something known as endless summer syndrome. I've talked about this in past videos. Endless summer syndrome, from long days of, I've got someone looking at me through the window. Excessive amounts of light constantly coming into your eyes, ladies and gentlemen, when the sun goes down. So most people leave their lights on until 10 p.m. What this does is it triggers the brain to think that it's in summer, the long days of summer. So we end up craving excess carbohydrates. You've got to read T.S. Wiley's book, Lights Out, Sleep, Sugar, and Survival. I'm going to talk extensively about endless summer syndrome in the near future, but endless summer syndrome is what leads to what I call TLS, or toxic light syndrome, folks. Toxic light syndrome is what happens to your internal environmental mechanisms and your brain chemistry after multiple years of being exposed to, again, endless summer syndrome, excessive amounts of light. So it's no wonder why people feel so bad. It's no wonder why people are out of alignment. Our internal environmental mechanisms, which is like the foundation of our being, has been completely thrown out of alignment. And when you don't feel good, ladies and gentlemen, when you can't seem to get ends to meet, you resort to, or many people do, they resort to drugs. And I can understand. I'm not judging in any way, shape, or form. I understand how obnoxious it can be to be inside of a body that feels out of alignment. Feels like it's out of alignment, excuse me. It makes life unbearable. It makes life a fucking nuisance. It makes life feel like hell. So I'm not in any way, shape, or form judging people for going to see a psychiatrist and get a prescription written for an antidepressant. Would I do that? No. Do I judge people for doing that? No. I think that there's better options, at least to try before resorting to something like that. You know, again, what about some of the racetams? And in no way, shape, or form am I recommending that you take these. What about, things like, again, huperzine A? What about getting a legitimate magnesium test done, not a magnesium test from your doctor? You go to your doctor and you get a magnesium test done. They do a serum magnesium test, and even if you're deficient in magnesium, your body works overtime to keep a sufficient amount of magnesium in your blood so that you don't have a heart attack or have heart failure. Oftentimes, the way that the medical establishment tests for things is not sufficient. It does not give an accurate overall panorama, or it doesn't give you the full picture. So, I've known people who had serious magnesium deficiencies who went to the doctor and they tested, you're fine, you have enough magnesium. And they look at you like you're insane. Well, what do you need to get your magnesium tested for? It's just insane. The whole model here of health is ridiculous in my opinion. It's flawed. I talk about this often. And it's so ridiculously flawed, and there's such a lack of logic. There's so many contradictions in the mainstream model that it appears strongly because of that this entire system was cooked up to be that way. It looks like it was designed to lead us astray. It really does. So, I've got someone watching me in their backyard. It's kind of awkward, but it is what it is. But mental illness, you guys, that is not something that is fun to go through. I know because I've been there. I still have anxiety. I think anxiety is normal, especially in a crazy world. To think that we're supposed to feel good all the time is kind of ridiculous in my opinion, especially in a world like this. Like I said earlier, I know a lot of people who, when they were younger, before they were 18, completely, for instance, I've known people who got bad grades when they were younger, and because of that, their parents would take them to the doctor, and the doctor would end up sending them to a psychologist. The psychologist might have ended up sending them to a psychiatrist, and before you know it, not doing your math homework, on time equates to you having to take a bunch of drugs. The model here is flawed, ladies and gentlemen. Pills are not always the answer. I'm not saying that they can't be used as tools, because they absolutely can, but nowadays there's a pill for everything. There's a pill for everything. And I've even read about vaccines that are being developed for like antidepressant vaccines. And now we have things like Neuralink through Tesla. We have all these companies saying that they're going to produce these brain chips that are incredibly easy to put into your system, just easier than a LASIK eye surgery, that will allow you to change your brainwaves so that you never feel depression anymore. Oh, how great. To some extent, depression and anxiety and these disorders, if you want to call them that, in some cases, they're actually survival mechanisms. There are certain triggers that are kickstarting to try to tell you that something's wrong that needs to change. I mean, imagine if you took that out of your system, imagine if you took that away or imagine if that was taken from us, our ability to feel discomfort or depression. that might lead to a lot of problems down the road, ladies and gentlemen, because, I mean, what if you're feeling that for a reason? I'm pretty sure you are. I don't think the body and the mind, for the most part, produce things that don't have some type of meaning. And what I mean by that is, maybe you have your depressive thoughts because it's a sign that something's out of balance. Now, what if you take that away from people and sterilize that? That's not going to be good. So I think that there's ways to manage depression and all these things. It's just my opinion. Again, I'm not a professional. I am not a professional, but I have seen a lot of people change their lives with certain pieces of information that I've shared with them. You don't have to be a professional to have common sense. I mean, do you have to have a driver's license to know when the light turns green? Put two and two together, ladies and gentlemen. We have this idea here that in order for you to have an opinion about something related to health, you've got to have a certificate on the wall with a little golden sticker on it. And I went to this Rockefeller, Carnegie, and Ford Foundation funded school that hypnotized me, and through being hypnotized, I got this little placard that gives me the right to be a, I think you catch my drift, excuse me, folks. So there's also, on top of, what about like microdosing? Now, I'm not recommending that you do this, but more and more research is being done on microdosing with psilocybinic mushrooms. More and more research is being done on microdosing these psychedelic compounds, ladies and gentlemen. Look into the research of Paul Stamets. Very interesting man. Does a lot of work with mushrooms like maitake and lion's mane, chaga, cordyceps, reishi, also known as Ganoderma. Very fascinating research is being done with this stuff. So in essence, I've always said that nature has the answer. I've always said that nature has the answer. But sometimes the answer isn't just, okay, I'm going to microdose some mushrooms. Sometimes it's addressing your sleep schedule. I mean, how have we made it, how have we lost our way to that extent? Where we don't even think that, okay, maybe, just maybe I'm not sleeping well. I mean, the average home has massive amounts of Wi-Fi in it, ladies and gentlemen. My home here in Virginia, if I turn the Wi-Fi off, there's multiple different networks that penetrate through my walls that I could hook up to if I had the password. The average home is inundated with over 6 signals. Go into your wireless and look at it. Turn your wireless off and then refresh the network tray and take a good look at it, folks. The mitigation of these fields is crucial. Because as I've said in recent videos, and I'll continue to say, ladies and gentlemen, these fields, when you're trying to sleep, they pass through your body and they stimulate your body, your organs, your glands, your tissues, your cells, and they agitate them. The shit can go through the walls of your home. What makes you think it's not going to go into your body? The attenuation of electromagnetic fields is crucial. That's why I've always recommended doing whatever you can to attenuate them. So what I've done here, I've done a handful of things, but one of the most recent things that I did a while back was I gridded my entire population with shungite, with orgonite infused shungite that I made, or shungite infused orgonite. I took hundreds of pieces of shungite and I put a square around my house, and then closer to my house I made another square, and then closer to my house along the walls I aligned the walls with shungite, and then I went into my home and on every single piece of electronics I placed a piece of shungite, ladies and gentlemen. And the effect that has had is drastic. I cannot stress that enough. On top of that, ladies and gentlemen, you can even buy shungite powder. In fact, you can get some from me if you need it. And you can make your own EMF blocking paint. Your walls are going to be black, but I mean, that's kind of cool in a sense. You got to turn your house into a shielded pod, because right now, if you do not have a shielded house, it is a New World Order kill pod that is zapping your energy, ladies and gentlemen. through your shower filled with chlorine, through the electromagnetic fields, through all the dirty electricity. I mean, come on. Your house is equipped with massive amounts of blue light that is destroying your prolactin and your melatonin, your neurotransmitters, you name it. It's time to get serious. Rest is crucial for those who have depression issues. And you know what? What's interesting? A lot of people who have depression are insomniacs. They don't sleep well. They end up sleeping through the day. You've got to rise and fall with the rising and the setting of the sun. Rest is going to make you, I mean, how are you going to feel good in a broken world when you don't even rest enough to be able to tackle the day? Your brain needs to go through massive rejuvenation through sleep. And again, you really need to pick up T.S. Wiley's book, Lights Out, Sleep, Sugar, and Survival. That is one of the most interesting books I've ever read. It is absolutely fascinating to monitor the way, let's just take a look at, ever since for one, we'll start off by saying that in the early 1900s and around 1910, people were sleeping about 9.5 hours to even sometimes 10.5 hours a night. We nowadays get maybe 6, and it's broken, interrupted sleep. It sucks. This is why when you go camping, you feel so much better. It's also why when you go camping, you grow tired quicker. It's because you don't have all the lighting and all the garbage to occupy your eyes. More often than not, a couple hours after the sun goes down, when you're camping, your lights out and you sleep grounded to the earth and you wake up feeling like $1 million fucking dollars. Unless you're one of these people that goes out and drinks a bunch of booze and smokes a bunch of pot and does a bunch of drugs when at camping. And more people are doing that nowadays. But if you go camping, maybe to seek a vision or to seek better health, you'll find that if you don't inundate yourself with a bunch of caffeine and stimulants and drugs, etc., you're going to wake up feeling so much better. But it's kind of funny, isn't it, that when the sun goes down, when you don't have all the cell phones and all the crap, you grow tired really quickly because your melatonin starts to spike. In the absence of light, your pineal gland secretes this regulatory hormone, But then you come back and you go, come back home and you don't sleep as well. And people don't even have the ability to put two and two together. I talked to so many people. Oh man, I went camping and I feel so much better. I don't want to leave. Well, it's like, yeah, your body is dying for you to stay. Your body feels good because it got some rest, but you're about to get in your car because you have to, because we live in the goddamn matrix, and you've got to come home and you've got to go back to work and do all this stupid bullshit. I'm so sick of the design of the Matrix, ladies and gentlemen. It is so absolutely stupid. It is such a violation of our freedoms that it makes me sick. So yeah, you bet, I can absolutely understand why people are depressed. Whether they're aware of it or not, a large majority of people who are depressed probably are aware of the fact that this world is faker than fucking genetically modified corn. It's ridiculous. And the people are all programmed, they're looking like zombies. There's nothing real on the market anymore. I mean, this is a fake matrix, ladies and gentlemen. It's to a large extent, an artificially induced dream world. You are dreaming right now, whether you're aware of it or not. So you've really just got to bite the bullet. You've got to work on dealing with, I would highly suggest the inner temple exercise. Go work with the elements, learn from the elements, let them tell you what you should do with yourself to make yourself feel better. But you've got to build a strong foundation, and that starts with taking your shoes off and walking on the ground. Yes, it's that simple. How are you going to get a foundation and have the strength of a tree if you don't, ladies and gentlemen, even take your shoes off? There's a reason why they call it a shoe sole. It's because it keeps your shoe or your foot, the meridians on your foot, away from touching the ground. The ground is filled full of electrons that have an anti-inflammatory effect, ladies and gentlemen, that make you feel good. And we know that many depressions can indeed be driven by an underlying inflammation issue. Inflammation is destroying our health here in the Matrix, and it's from all of the stress hormone, the cortisol. It's from all of the bad foods, all of the corn syrup and all the crap that goes into your system. And it's like, just on a metaphoric level, it's like having someone with long nails just scrape your insides. It's called inflammation. Inflammation leads to mucus acidosis. It's just not good. So building your foundation, ladies and gentlemen, that's built around grounding and rest. And again, before I wrap this one up, I'm going to say, buy the book, Lights Out, Sleep, Sugar, and Survival by T.S. Wiley. That has been such a valuable piece of information to my growth and to my knowledge base in general. And I'm not claiming to know much, but I am claiming to know that book, rest is crucial, and that book is like the filet mignon of sleep literature. I'm gonna wrap this one up, you guys. Always remember that it's normal to not feel good all the time. We live in a world where we've been fed this idea that we're supposed to pretty much be sterile and not feel anything. Chances are, if you have a depression issue, you just feel things. That's normal. But learning how to manage those feelings so it doesn't ruin your life and affect your sleep and your rest, you name it, is crucial. So we'll talk more about this in the near future. I love you all, and until next time, peace be with you.